You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
Hello and welcome to the 1865 match report with me, the Maradona of the Midlands. Today we are looking back at a changeable day weather-wise at the City Ground where Nottingham Forest Aston Villa in a Premier League match. I'll be joined for our in-depth reportage by Baz, who was who was embedded, shall we say, in his usual place in the Brian Clough Lower to watch the match. So we'll find out if he got very wet or not. Something to listen for, if nothing else. We'll start off with the main facts of the game. It finished 1-1, and Forest went goal crazy. Unfortunately, there were one was for Villa, and only one of the other goals was for us. So Murillo scored an own goal for Aston Villa, and that was cancelled out by a sweet strike from Neco Williams. The match details we'll get into shortly, but we'll start off with probably the most interesting thing that happened before the match was the team lineups, where Forest made 9 changes from midweek to go back to the team that defeated Tottenham so comprehensively a couple of weeks back, while Villa did the converse of that, only making 2 changes initially, and that was until their goalkeeper, the Argentinian Martinez, got injured in the warm-up, so Bizot came in for them. So they ended up with 3 changes. As I mentioned, Baz was there. Baz, I guess you expected all those changes after the reserve team put out against Porto in midweek?
You look at it and you think, but that's our first team basically that went out for that game today. So yeah, it's kind of what we expected, really.
Yeah, and it looks. I mean, to be fair, it looks like a strong lineup when you put it up there. So a good blend of defenders, midfielders, attackers, wide men, pace, a little bit of pace there as well.
Probably 4 defenders,
yeah.
5 midfielders, 1 attacker.
Yeah. So I wasn't too unconfident before kickoff, and it was a fairly even start. But I think the first real chance of the game came from that little fat Scotsman, as somebody else used to get described as down at the City Ground, John McGinn, who I have to say always impresses me. And I was sitting there wondering today, if he was English, would he be in the England team even ahead of the likes of Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White? I don't know, but we'll never find out. But anyway, he had a shot wide, didn't he, Baz, after about 4 minutes?
And this is he's not the most elegant of players. He does actually remind me of Andy Reid, not just in his stature, but also in the way he plays, because he's not like a flying winger. He's not, and actually that's what caused us problems, was his position on the pitch meant almost like he fell between Neco and Callum, and he wasn't getting picked up, and he just kept on finding space for himself and picking out. Again, he's not like a flying winger. He was just picking out passes. Quite a creative player. So yeah, he was causing us trouble all game.
Really used his backside well as well. That's probably the best use to backside play you'll see this side of, I don't know, Beyonce. I don't know, something like that. But anyway, Forest responded to that with a bit of a taster for what was to come. With Neco Williams having a fairly wicked shot into the near post after about 7 minutes.
Having seen it back, I think it was going wide anyway, but Bizot had to decided to play safe and put the save in and put it out for a corner. We're talking about corners are a big deal, and we're just awful at them. I can remember, I think I might have said this on an earlier match report. I read an article basically saying something like 30% of corners result in a goal, and I'm like, not for us. They don't.
Not for us, no. It's like they don't bother practicing them. I don't know what they do all week, but one thing. I mean, when you're on an actual full size pitch, it is amazing how far away the goal is from a corner play. So I mean, even as a grown man, it does look a long way away. It's not easy to do it. I guess we get used to professionals making it look easy, but as you say, not at Forest, we make it look as hard as it actually is.
And the other thing is, every single time we got a corner, whatever was going on in the box, we got penalised for it.
Yeah,
It was,
yeah.
I mean, I know that like this, that's apparently again, this is this thing where because the ball isn't in play, you can basically do what you want and the
Yeah.
referee can't do anything about it. But it's just so annoying. It's like, I know you have to get advantages and all that sort of thing, but it just winds me up. He's like,
No, it does. I mean, if you look back at that old footage, not even that old footage, maybe just 20 years ago, and the players are just standing there waiting for the corner. They're in their positions. They're getting ready to go to make their runs, whatever. But there's none of this. There's none of pulling anybody's shirts or pushing each other, stamping on the keeper's toes or whatever. And it is annoying. They still went through a thing about 5 years ago where at the beginning of the season they started giving penalties and lasted for about 2 weeks, and then after that it's just got back to normal again. But I don't know. It's I don't know. They're not good. They're obviously not. The referees obviously aren't bothered enough to do anything about it. So I think we're
and it would be
to,
much less annoying if our actual ball in past the first man and
yeah.
occasionally resulted in a goal.
Or when we hit it far post, didn't just sail out as well. Which after the Tottenham game, we thought we'd found a solution with Neco Williams and his corners down there, but no, he's back to back to normal. The only next thing, I suppose, on 10 minutes, Matty Cash went in on Morgan Gibbs White, got a deserved yellow card, and I'd say Forest were the better team for the first 15 minutes. We had plenty of corners, as you say, but we obviously weren't doing much with them. And the other highlight was a lovely run from Hutchinson. Baz, what was your view of that?
Was that the one where he went the entire length of the pitch?
Yeah, he went past about four Villa players, sort of slalomed, old-fashioned winger style. I never saw Stanley Matthews play, but I assume it was something like that. If the reputation to be believed.
Yeah, Hutchinson was a funny one this game because he's obviously capable of doing stuff like that, but he's also, when he breaks down the wing, sometimes he'll stop and cut back when you really just want him to keep on going. He's obviously not got the pace of Elanga or Brennan Johnson, so he feels, and I think sometimes he lacks a bit of confidence, and he also lacks a bit of strength. Again, he needs to put a few hours in at the gym because he gets pushed off the ball quite a lot, and there were a number of times where he would get pushed off the ball and then just start appealing to the ref, and the ref wasn't going to give anything.
No, and it's been a bugbear of mine this season that we keep on playing wingers, no matter who the manager is, on the wrong wing. So they're constantly cutting in, and you never get that sort of run to the byline and whipping it back or cutting it back. It's always that sort of drifting left-footed cross from the right hand side, the right-footed cross from the left hand side, where it's on the trajectory to the keeper, or it's easy for a defender to just head away, rather than being sort of curling one away from goal, which is much harder for them to deal with. But I think that's just the modern way. Ever since Iron Robin sort of showed people how it was done, everybody's tried to emulate it since then. We've just, unfortunately, not everybody's got an Iron Robin. So after that, so I'd say Forest were probably looking the stronger team at that point. So it was a bit against the run of play that Villa scored in the 22nd minute, Baz.
Well, I think it was, but the warning signs were there. So all the way through, as I mentioned, John McGinn his position on the pitch meant that he was getting a lot of space. It's not often that Neco struggles against the winger, but he was struggling not because McGinn was outdoing him. It was because McGinn was putting himself into an area where Neco didn't want to go up and mark him because that would leave the entire shape of the back line wrong. So McGinn was basically having freedom to do whatever he wanted. And then the other thing that was really causing us issues was Ross Barkley kept on getting in behind Sangare and Anderson. So those two were finding a lot of space and then picking out the passes, which then meant we were then scrambling a bit to cover them, which was then making the space for Morgan Rogers, which is where the goal came from.
Yes, it was down. Well, they'd done most of attacking down the right hand side of the pitch, but the goal came from the left, where Luca Dean played a quick and incisive ball into Rogers, and he basically just smashed it across the 6-yard box. Going back to our point really a few minutes ago about Forest wingers not getting to the byline and firing it in, he did exactly that. And Big Murillo just couldn't sort his feet out, could he?
To be honest, I had absolutely no idea what had happened.
All
I saw
right.
the ball, I saw the ball coming in, and then I saw Sells go down for it, and then there was like a pause, and then the referee blew the whistle, and I thought Sells. I didn't know it had hit Murillo. I thought one of their players had put it in. Sells had saved it, but maybe Sells had saved it behind the line or something like that. And then suddenly, like everyone was like, "Oh, it was Murillo. It was Murillo."
Yeah. Well, yeah. What happened was, having seen it for the benefit of a replay, he got fired in, hit Murillo's right foot, bounced off to his left leg, and sort of bobbled over the line. Sells was scrambling to try and claw it back, but it was just a bit too quick for him. And a really disappointing goal. But it did lead to Villa sort of getting the better of the game then for the next few minutes, until Forest did a rather sneaky thing, and Matt Sells went down for a tactical injury break, which allowed Pereira to get the whole team round him, sort a few things out. And then after that, I think, well, there was one more shot from Rogers where he hit the crossbar, and there's actually another shot directly after the goal. So Villa could have gone 2 or 3 up at that point, actually, because we were wobbling for a while after the goal.
I
But
think after they scored, the crowd went silent,
yeah,
and you could feel the nerves in the crowd. I think that came through to the players, but also Villa realised. I mean, Ross Barkley must be like 40 or something by
yeah,
now, but he just had the free. Him and McGinn, as I say, they just had the freedom of the park because our midfield did not know how to track them, and
yeah.
they completely took advantage of it, and it was looking like, yeah, we could be 2 or 3 down by half
And
time.
also with our goal scoring record, you sort of can't help but feel at that point that, well, that's game over, isn't it? We're not going to score here, and that's 3 points over. But that little tactical break, as I said, helped things. And
Yeah, as you say, it's when I saw Cells go down, and I was like, "Oh, this is not good." Well, at least we got Ortega. That'll be all right. But then, yeah, like I looked up, and the entire team was over by Vitor Pereira.
yeah, and it worked, because after 37 minutes, after a few sort of minutes of ineffective side to side passing, Neco thought, "I'll sod this," and just wellied it and scored. And you probably had the best view of the house from then, quite near your seats, Baz.
Um, not that close, but
No.
what happened? So we kind of dealt with McGinn and Barkley just by not giving them the ball. So we had quite a bit of possession in the build-up, and Callum Hudson-Odoi kind of turned to be a bit of the scapegoat for amongst the fans near me, because we were doing that like horseshoe thing where we couldn't actually get through their defense, so it would go up to one wing, then come back down, and everyone was just like, "Put it in the box, put it in the
Yeah.
box." And Callum, being Callum, he would receive the ball, and rather than going outside the man, he would try and cut in, find that his way was blocked. There was one point where Neco Williams Callum turned, Neco Williams tried to run through the gap between like the fullback and the centre half, ran through the gap, and then Callum just played it back to one of our centre backs, and Neco looked absolutely disgusted. So
Yeah.
then, when the same thing, and the fans around me were like moaning and moaning, and then Callum did the same thing a couple of minutes later, maybe even 30 seconds later, I don't know, and you could see Neco changed his mind, and instead of going inside, he wanted to go outside, but then Callum played it to him, and if you watch the goal, Nico's completely wrong-footed, has to change his weight, come back inside, and then he just like wellies it. And I
Yeah,
think partly because he wellies it because he's so off balance, that's all he could do.
yeah, and also I think that just taking that shot early, it surprises the keeper. It's certainly surprised the Forest fans because we don't normally do that. And then it sneaked in at the near post. It was a really good goal, and it really, I think Nico had one of his best games again. I mean, you seem to say this every week, but he really did. He's responded really well to the disappointment of not making the World Cup with Wales, and looks extra motivated to make the best of the rest of the season. And he nearly did it again a few minutes later, after about 41 minutes. He had another shot and it nearly went in again. So he was pretty much on fire. But it was on as even at half time. Villa looked a little bit dangerous, but it stayed at 1-1. And we'll be back with our thoughts on the second half after this short break.
The 1865 Match Report.
Hello and welcome back to the second half of the 1865 Match Report. We left you tantalisingly at a 1-1 draw at half-time between Forest and Villa. And so we're all looking forward to the second half. And Forest started quite well, didn't we, at the beginning of the second half, especially that young Igor Jesus.
Yeah, I thought he actually, for him, he had a pretty bad game. He was really struggling to win stuff in the air. Like we've said earlier in the season, like especially under Dyche, it was like he could win stuff that he had no right to win for a player of his size and stature and all that. But he wasn't doing it today. He was not getting much control of the ball. I mean, the weather was not helping. Um, and yes, but he got this breakthrough and put it over. It was like you don't expect that off him.
No, well, yeah, just before that, he had a header, and he's pretty good in the air with his headers when he gets a chance, and
Yeah,
he
yeah,
did
yeah.
the right thing. He headed it downwards, but he headed it downwards and so hard that it bounced wide and over, and then he had that shot. Yeah, he was through pretty much 1-on-1, but he took it really early. He could have taken it maybe 5-10 meters further forward and then slotted it in. But he tried to blast it from about 25 yards out, maybe. Sorry for mixing my measurement units there in yards and meters. But and he blew it over the bar. And then after that, it was a bit of a scrappy 15 minutes. Anything that came to your mind during that time?
The only thing was that the whole thing of Ross Barkley in particular, I don't know how. So we all normally have it where Anderson sort of goes wandering and Sungare drops back. But we had quite a few moments where both our midfielders were pushing forwards. And Ross Barkley, again, was just finding space and finding space. And it was infuriating because, I mean, I could see what was going on. And actually, I don't know if it was during this 15 minutes or if it was a little bit later on after the subs, but there came a point where you could see that when we were in possession, Murillo came out of the back four and just man marked Ross Barkley completely. What so that Anderson and Songari could go forwards with that freedom. And that absolutely terrified me because obviously you've got Ollie Watkins, you've got Morgan Rogers, and you've got John McGinn, who are then 3 against 3.
Yeah,
So it
and,
was,
and
it
then,
was
yeah,
terrifying
yeah. And the
tactics.
thing about Barkley is that he's not just a good technical player, but he's a big old unit as well.
Mm,
And he could match Sangare, which not many people do in the even in the Premier League. He normally has that advantage, especially in that sort of number 10 role where it's normally a more slight figure, more of
mm.
a floaty around sort of fella. To have this big scouser up against him, it offers a different challenge. And it was probably one of his worst games, I'd say, Sangare's worst games. And Elliot Anderson as well wasn't really his usual sort of Rolls Royce self either, I would say, for most of the
I
match.
think, but again, I mean, Sangare, he made a lot of mistakes. A lot of his, when he picked the ball up, one of his things is like that little vertical pass that sort of releases a player, and Anderson does the same. But Sangare's were just they're just not getting their target. They were getting intercepted, or he was off by half a yard or whatever. So he wasn't having a great game, but credit to Villa as well, because the way they were set up, they stopped us playing. Because like especially Morgan, they were in a 4-2-3-1 as well. So Morgan had the Onana and Tielemans sort of against him. But then, so that I guess that's the idea behind having Anderson and Sangare coming further forwards to try and over outnumber them. But it just wasn't working. We couldn't get the space in the middle of the park, so they had control of it.
Yeah, I mean, Onana again, massive fella, really, really difficult obstacle to get past. I think the only sort of things to note that happened around about the hour mark were we traded a couple of good efforts. For Forest, Morgan Gibbs White had a deflected effort which brought a good save from Bizot, and for Villa, McGinn had a shot which Matt Sells did a really good save, a really great save. And the next thing that really we should mention is on 65 minutes, Chris Woods made his long-awaited return to the Forest Premier League lineup. He came on for Hutchinson, and I think it sort of straight after that, Villa had another really good shot where Barkley, our friend Barkley, shot. And Rogers, instead of sort of nesting the ball in the net, did a rugby conversion, which sort of let us off the hook a bit. But I'd say for the next 10 minutes, everybody, including the crowd, the team, responded to Chris Wood's introduction. As I say, we dominated the next 10 minutes, and we could have easily got a winner ourselves at that point. And you could argue, could have won the match from there.
Yeah, I certainly think we could have won. It would have been deserved if we'd got the 3 points today, despite the scares and the riding our luck a little bit. The interesting thing with Chris Wood, when he came on, obviously, as you say, it was for Hutchinson. So Morgan went out to the right wing, and Igor Jesus dropped into number 10 role, sort of behind Chris Wood. And I've been saying this all for ages now, is until he came to Forest, Jesus played as a number 10. He's not a number 9. So you hear it on the radio. They're moaning about him all the time. It's like he's just in the wrong areas. That's because he's a number 10. He's not a number 9. And we've been playing him there pretty much out of necessity. And actually, I think that combination of Jesus behind Chris Wood could be a really, really powerful one. Obviously, it's a waste of Morgan because he's out on the right wing. But yeah, we looked much better. Obviously, with Murillo stepping forward to Mark Barkley and Jesus sort of giving their Villa's midfielders something different to think about, then we actually started dominating the middle of the park and controlling the game a little bit.
Yep. I think the best chance we had at that point was Neco Williams again. He drifted in from the left and had a shot, which to me looked like it was going in until Tielemans stuck out a leg and blocked it. I think that was the point where we were going to win it, but unfortunately, Tielemans' leg got in the way. So the rest of the match, we traded a few chances. Villa, have to be honest, probably looked a bit more dangerous. They made a triple sub, brought on Dougie Luiz, who got a bit of a boo from our fellow Forest fans. Don't know if you were booing, but I know you like a boo. No, you don't like a boo. I like a boo. I don't mind it.
I've got no reason to boo him. It's like it's not his fault. He was just injured all the time.
Well, yeah.
And our head coach doesn't like players who can pass the ball.
Well, I just like being rich, good-looking people, just because it makes me feel better out of my life. Anyway, but it almost paid dividends from straight away when Watkins let us off the hook again. Another rugby conversion.
Yeah. So their attacks from this point on. So we sort of had much more control of the ball, but we were almost playing like Ange ball, where everyone was piling forwards. We were doing that horseshoe thing, and then if one of our passes went astray or they managed to intercept it, they could just break. And they did. And obviously they're very good at that. They're fast as well. So when they attacked, it did look pretty hairy and a bit like the Porto game. If they'd actually had a decent finishing, then yeah, the game would have been out of sight.
Yeah, but thankfully we managed to see it through and gain a valuable point against the team who probably been the third best team in England this season for the majority of the season. And, that's not to be sniffed at. A man lucky enough to watch the third best team in England this season is Neil from the love of Paul McGrath. Paul McGrath? Yeah, Paul McGrath. I don't know why I thought Farth. It's Paul McGrath podcast. He's got a lovely Irish accent, and he's going to give us his thoughts on how he saw the match this afternoon right now.
Hello there, Neil from For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast here. Delighted to be asked to give my thoughts on that 1-1 draw by Rich and the guys. And I suppose really just to get straight into it, Aston Villa versus Nottingham Forest. I always do these post-match pieces for the guys because it's a tie, it's a match-up, it's two teams. Obviously, I'm a big Villa fan, but I've got a real soft spot for Nottingham Forest as well, and always want to see them do well. Albeit I didn't want to see them do well today, unfortunately, but they did, and I think Nottingham Forest were really cohesive unit today. You can see the great work that Vitor Pereira has put in there. The back four were working superbly well together in both transitions, forward and back. I think Murillo, albeit he scored their own goal, he's kind of puffed out his chest again. At the start of the season, he was don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic footballer. But you guys were kind of conceding goals and stuff like that. And Vitor Pereira has come in and he's put the brakes on that by making that back four very resolute. Midfield for you guys was amazing. I thought Sangare was really, really good. I thought Callum Hudson-Odoi did an awful lot of great work, and you had that great run or two from Omari Hutchinson, albeit he was taken off in the second half. And I suppose, look, to talk a small bit about Aston Villa. Villa, I thought, were a bit lackluster, I think, today, specifically in the first half. We were, we looked like we were kind of controlling the game for parts, but we were being a bit lazy, I think, in the first half. We get our goal through the fortuitous cross from Morgan Rogers, who I didn't think had his greatest game today, bundled in by Murillo, and we go 1-0 up, and then potentially we could have gone 2-1 up or 2-0 up. Ollie Watkins misses a chance, but Villa retreated then for a period of time right back onto the edge of our area, and we kind of have a habit of doing this from time to time. And Nottingham Forest, I think, scored the goal they wanted to score. I think that was a goal of, I think Forest had probably earmarked that area of the field where they could get an opportunity for Neco Williams to cut inside and take that shot. There was a couple of instances where that happened. There was one obviously beforehand, Bizat turns it around the corner. There was one I think as well where Williams put it wide, and then third time lucky, Williams cuts inside, takes that shot. It was a really great shot, don't get me wrong. It wasn't as if anybody didn't close him down. He had people in his face. He had John McGinn there. The harshest critics of Aston Villa will say John McGinn turned his arse up, but John McGinn has a really big bum, so maybe that was the right thing to do, was to turn it to it. But I jest with that. It was a really good goal. It goes right in beside the post. Nothing Marco Bizak could do, and we're 1-1 at that stage. And then Nottingham Forest really take control of the game for about half an hour to maybe 35 minutes. Come out in the second half, look a bit more together. The conditions as well, I meant to say, in the first half were absolutely atrocious. So that's definitely something that they played into it. Second half then was owned by Forest. Villa came into it a bit more, had a gilt-edged chance missed by... it was actually Morgan Rogers' missed chance in the first half, which he has to score. I don't know how he misses that. And then we had another gilt-edged chance missed by Ollie Watkins. But saying that, Forest then obviously have their chances. The Morgan Gibbs white shot that was deflected by Cash. Brilliant save from Marco Bizat. What I'm trying to say here, I think, is I've been talking about chances at this end, chances at that end, and then maybe some dourness in the middle of the field. I think overall a point was definitely the fair result. I think both sets of fans will go away and go, oh, we should have scored this and won 2-1. I think that's probably a fair reflection. And both sets of fans will be right to think that, I think, as well. And this is a big point for Nottingham Forest in their quest for safety as well. Another point under Vitor Pereira. You guys have a brilliant run going currently. And Aston Villa get another point on their quest for Champions League. So if you don't mind, I think we'll all shake hands and we'll go home and we'll all be happy after this. big up to the guys. I hope you guys stay up. I hope Forest stay up. I think you definitely will stay up. I think you've got some steel there in midfield. And thanks a million to the guys for asking me to come on. Fair result, fair draw, and hopefully maybe we might be seeing you guys again in the Europa League semi-final. So keep an eye out for that. See you later.
The 1865 Match Report.
Okay, thank you for that, Neil, for your thoughts from the opposition there. So, Baz, the weekend's not turned out to be a bad one. We've got a point against high-flying Aston Villa, and Tottenham Hotspur lost at Sunderland. So, with the game up with Burnley coming up next weekend, I think if we beat them, I mean, I'm loath to say it out loud, but I think if, and it's a big if because we don't win many games, full stop, never mind at home. But if we beat
games against Burnley at home.
Yeah. If we beat Burnley, we'll almost be there, won't we?
Yeah, I think we could have got 3 points today. That would have been absolutely fantastic because I think we're going to struggle against Burnley simply because that's that expectation thing. And it's going to be a home game against Burnley. Everyone's going to expect them to just roll over, and they're not going to do that. They always make us suffer when we play them. So that's going to be tricky, but it's so tight. I mean, there's even a chance we could end up in 15th if Manchester United put 2 or 3 past Leeds tomorrow night.
Yes, I saw that as well. Yes, so I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm going to be a Man U fan now rather than being anybody but Man U. For tomorrow night, I'll be a Man U fan and hoping they get a few goals against Leeds.
There's still even after Burnley, there's still 5 games after that. So there's still room for things to change, but this again, they're all big weeks. But this is again a big week. I would like us to win the Europa League, and I'd like us to stay up. And I don't see why we can't, because actually, now that Pereira's sort of got us gelling a little bit, we look like the players look like, one, they know what they're supposed to do, and 2, they're enjoying themselves. And those 2 things together should put us back to somewhere near the kind of levels that we were at last season.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a little glimpse of that just with the Chris Woods cameo. The Morgan Rogers, Morgan Gibbs White chance I mentioned came from Chris Wood winning a header in the box, which we never do really. Just for that 10 minutes or so, it just seemed like all our problems had been solved, and the solution had been there all along. It wasn't sacking managers and changing formations or bringing other players. It was just Chris Woods wasn't playing, and I think if he'd been playing, even if he'd got 10 goals this season, we'd be safely mid-table, wouldn't we? Now we could just look forward to the Porto game without any stresses. But unfortunately, it hasn't been. So yes, with the Porto game coming up later on in this week, we'll be back with another match report for that, and then again with Burnley, and we'll try and fit in a Yates's espresso bar in there as well for you this week, you lucky sods. But thank you, Baz, for joining me for today's match report, and thank you, listeners, for listening in, and please do like and subscribe as it helps other people find us. Until next time, this has been the Maradona of the Midlands. Bye bye.
You've been listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps other listeners find our content.